is it worth getting a civilian attorney? Like, obviously, you have your JAGs, you have that stuff available to you. Is it really worth at the end of the day? Obviously you are a civilian attorney, but if you're thinking as a military person, is it really is there a benefit to getting an outside attorney?
Well, I think the best answer to that is price is only an issue when value is a mystery, right? So I'll say it again, price is only an issue when value is a mystery. So before we get to whether it's worth the price, let's look at the value of it, make sure the value is there. So yeah, if you're late to formation 3 times and you're getting a negative counseling statement, a 6105, if you're a Marine, or it's something small, no, you don't need to pay me $10,000 to write a rebuttal to your negative counseling statement. The value of that is probably not worth it to you. Now, on mine, it's just time, right? And so maybe for someone it is worth that, but on mine, it's just a matter of how I allocate the limited time I have. And that's how I price. And any real attorney or professional services are going to pay, they're going to kind of figure the amount of time it's going to take me or my law firm to do something. That's how we take the price. And so it's really an issue of value to them, right? And so, no, if it's something really small, I go talk to the Defense Service Office, go talk to the Trial Defense Service Office. They crush that. They're going to be doing a lot more of that every day, day in and day out than I am. Frankly, I don't do a lot of that anymore. I used to when I was in the Army, but now I'm doing drug trafficking defense. I'm doing drug distribution, sexual assault, abusive sexual contact, very aggravated assault with means likely to commit death or grievous bodily harm, very serious offenses. And so now we look at value proposition, right? And so if you are charged with, let's say you have a Marine that went out, got drunk, did some drugs that he probably shouldn't have been doing, and got into a very big fight and almost killed someone, right? And I say that because I've seen it before. You're drinking, and then you go do a bump in the bathroom, then you get all pumped up and you get into a fight. And this case in particular, I'm kind of thinking about, it was a fight and the victim fell back and he hit his head on the floor and he had brain hemorrhaging. It was awful. And so now I have this individual who now is charged with aggravated assault with the means likely to commit death or grievous bodily harm.
Maybe attempted murder even?
Yeah, that was it. They were looking at attempted murder, but I think in that case, the prosecution didn't have enough to really show that he attempted to do that. So it's one below that with the means likely for death or grievous bodily harm, but it could have been attempted murder even. And now there's drug offenses, everything else. Now you're saying, okay, if I'm convicted of this, I'm probably doing 5, 10, 15 years in prison, dishonorable discharge, everything that goes along with that. So the value there is huge. And so when you got to weigh the value against the price, because if someone says, I need your time, I'm going to charge them for my time, right? And I'm not going to take on garbage cases or small cases or take money where I don't think it's appropriate. So is it worth it? It really depends on that service member's unique scenario. You kind of going back to a video we made previously on risk tolerance, risk capacity, what they're charged with, and all of these things put together. Because it goes back to what's the cost of doing nothing for that individual. Maybe the cost of doing nothing is, okay, now I have a Gomar that I can frame instead of having Andrei Vasilevsky behind me. I can have a Gomar frame behind me, and that's kind of cool, right? If you're getting out, it doesn't really matter. But let's say you're taking that Gomar, and the Gomar is just a general officer memorandum of reprimand. It's something the Army gives out like candy. And if you are getting out of the military in 3 months and you get a Gomar, okay, who cares? Don't pay me $10,000 or $15,000 or even $1,500 to do a rebuttal. Who cares? Frame it on your wall, put it above your pool table, tack it on your dartboard, right? It's a nice talking piece. But on the other side of that coin, if you are a 16-year lieutenant colonel and you get a general officer memorandum of reprimand, and that gets permanently filed in your ANHR, which is your permanent file, that will drive a separation board. Right. So now you're going to have to go through an administrative separation board, the HRC or PERS is going to drive. And that one rebuttal could cost you an entire career. So now let's look at it. Now we have 2 different people. We have the same general officer memorandum of rebuttal. One of them is if they win, if they get the reprimand, they're going to put it on above their pool table or behind them in their office and frame it. You don't need to spend any money. There's no value prop there. But if you have a 16-year lieutenant colonel and that gets permanently filed, then you're now on the hook for potentially getting kicked out of the military with no retirement. Now that general officer memorandum of reprimand we do the rebuttals to those, and maybe it's a $1.5 or $2 million document, right? where if we can show that you didn't commit this offense, you weren't in the wrong, or it should be what's called locally filed, then you don't have to worry about potentially losing your career. And now that becomes a $1.5–2 million proposition. So then we say, okay, what's it going to cost to do the rebuttal? What are the probabilities of success? Weigh that against a potential loss of retirement. So again, price is only an issue and value is a mystery. So, well, why does it cost this? Well, you got to look at the value first, and then the value will drive oftentimes the cost, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, that was the whole question there. Is it worth getting a civilian attorney? And the answer I'll sum it up for what I heard. It depends on what the consequences can be. Is really what is where we can really sum it right up into.